not
Oh
backing down!
my
This is our
God.
land! You can't take it from us!
Robert Hayes was sleeping when his dog started crying. Not normal barking. Not the sound a dog makes when it wants to go outside. This was different. This was the sound of a dog that was scared. The sound of a dog that heard something wrong in the night. Robert was a farmer for 43 years. He was 71 years old now. His hair was gray. His hands were rough and hard from work. His back hurt most days. He lived alone on a ranch called Clearwater Ranch, high up in the mountains of Montana. He had lived there so long that he knew every wind sound, every animal noise, every storm that came through the valley. He could hear the difference between a normal night and a dangerous night. This night felt dangerous. Robert got out of bed. It was cold. December cold. The kind of cold that stops life. He looked out his window and saw snow falling. Not light snow. Heavy snow. The kind that came fast and thick and covered everything. He looked at his clock. It was 11 at night. The storm had come early. The weather report on the radio that afternoon said the temperature would drop to 20 degrees below zero. That was life-threatening cold. That was the kind of cold where animals died. His dog came to his bedroom door. Her name was Scout. She was a border collie mix, black and white, 8 years old. Scout was smart. Scout knew things. Right now, Scout was telling Robert something was wrong. "What is it, girl?" Robert asked. He put his hand on Scout's head. Scout pulled toward the hallway. She wanted Robert to follow her. This was not normal behavior. Scout was a calm dog. Scout did not panic. But right now, she was pulling hard and making sounds that Robert had never heard from her before. Robert got dressed. He put on his heavy winter coat. He put on his boots and his gloves. He took his flashlight from the kitchen drawer. As he was getting ready, Scout watched him. The dog seemed to know they were going outside. When Robert opened the back door, the cold hit him like something physical. It was not just cold. It was something that attacked his skin and took his breath. The wind was already strong, and it came from the north, pushing snow sideways through the air. Robert could only see a few feet in front of him. Beyond that was just white darkness. Beyond that was nothing. Scout went down the back steps first. The dog moved toward the fence that separated Robert's land from his neighbor's land. The fence was old but strong. Robert had fixed it many times over the years. Scout was moving fast, and Robert followed her, fighting against the wind and the snow that tried to push him backward. As Robert walked, his mind was thinking about his neighbor. The neighbor's name was Richard Dalton. Richard owned the land on the other side of the fence. Richard had a horse ranch. Robert did not like Richard. Many people in the county did not like Richard. Richard bought horses and kept them, but he did not take care of them well. Over the years, Robert had seen Richard's horses. They looked thin. They looked tired. One time Robert saw a horse standing in the rain with no shelter nearby. Another time he saw a horse with a deep cut on its leg that was bleeding. Robert had talked to Richard about it. Richard had told him to mind his own business. Scout stopped at the fence. The dog was looking toward Richard's land. Robert shined his flashlight in that direction. At first, he saw only snow and darkness. Then he heard it, a sound that made his heart stop. It was a baby horse. A foal, and the foal was crying. The cry was not loud. It was weak. It was the sound of something very young and very cold and very afraid. It was the sound of something that was dying. Robert looked at the fence. It was high. His knees hurt. His bike hurt. He was an old man, but he did not think about his age. He did not think about the cold. He did not think about how it was not his responsibility. He moved toward the fence and started to climb. Scout stayed close to the fence, as if she understood what was happening. When Robert got to the other side, the snow was deeper. It came up past his boots. His legs were shaking. His lungs burned. He was breathing in cold air that felt like fire. He aimed his flashlight toward the sound of the crying. There, in the middle of an open field, a foal. Just a baby horse. Maybe only a few weeks old. The foal was standing, but it was standing wrong. Its legs were shaking so much that Robert thought it might fall over. The foal's dark body was covered in snow and ice. When Robert moved closer, he could see that the foal was not moving well. The animal was in bad shape, very bad shape. Robert walked toward the foal slowly. He did not want to scare it. When he got close, he saw something that made him angry and sad at the same time. The foal was not just thin because it was young. The foal was thin because it had not been fed enough. Robert could count the foal's ribs. He could see the shape of the foal's hip bones. This was not a healthy baby horse. This was a baby horse that was being starved. The foal did not run away when Robert came near. That was the saddest thing of all. A healthy young horse would run. A scared young horse would move. This foal did not even try. This foal just stood there, shaking, with its eyes half closed. This foal had already given up. Robert took off his heavy coat. He wrapped it around the foal. The coat was too big, but it would help. The baby horse did not fight him. It just stood there, so cold and so tired that it did not have the energy to be afraid. Robert picked up the foal. He held it against his body. The animal was light, too light. Light, like something that was already half dead. Robert turned around and started walking back toward the fence. Scout was waiting on the other side, and she was barking now, a sound of worry and urgency. The walk back took a long time. Robert's legs felt weak. His arms hurt from holding the foal. His chest hurt from the cold and from moving so fast. But he kept walking. He kept talking to the foal in a soft voice. "It is okay," Robert said. "You are safe now. It is okay. You are going to make it. I have got you. You are safe." When Robert got back to his side of the fence, he climbed through slowly, carefully, making sure the foal did not fall. Scout jumped and danced around him, making sounds of relief. The old dog seemed to understand that they had done something important. Robert walked toward his barn. The barn was warm. The barn had heat lamps. The barn had blankets and straw. The barn was safety. The cold tried to stop him. The wind tried to push him backward. The snow tried to bury him. But Robert did not stop. He walked forward, one step at a time, toward the light of the barn. Behind him, Scout followed. Inside his arms, the tiny foal breathed shallow breaths and waited to see if this human could save its life. The night was far from over. The worst part was still coming. And Robert Hayes still did not know that saving this one small foal would change everything about his ranch,
Robert knew it.
his town,
He could see it in
and
the way
his
the
life.
baby horse was barely breathing. He could see it in the way the foal's eyes were starting to close. He could see it in the way the animal's body was going stiff. The foal had maybe 2 hours left, maybe less. Robert brought the foal into his barn and wrapped it in dry blankets. He had set up heat lamps. He had mixed warm water and tried to get the foal to drink. The baby horse was too weak. The foal would not swallow. The foal was slipping away. Robert sat in the straw next to the foal. He was 71 years old and very tired. He had not slept. It was now 2 o'clock in the morning. The barn was warm from the heat lamps, but Robert was cold inside. He was cold because he was watching something die, and he could not stop it. The wind outside was loud. The storm was getting worse. Robert could hear it against the barn walls. He could hear the snow piling up outside. He could hear the storm trying to get in. The temperature outside was now below zero, way below zero, the kind of temperature that killed things. That was when Robert heard something strange. It was his horses, all of them. They were making noise, not normal noise, the sound they made when something was wrong. Robert looked up from the dying foal. He listened. The sound was coming from all around the barn, from every stall, from every direction. Robert got up slowly. His knees hurt. His back hurt. Everything hurt. He walked toward the sound. He went to the stall next to where the foal was lying. That stall held his oldest horse, a mare named Duchess. Duchess was 17 years old. Duchess was calm and quiet. But right now, Duchess was not quiet. Duchess was pushing against the gate of her stall. Duchess was trying to break through. Robert looked at the next stall. A young gelding named Thunder was also pushing on his gate, pushing hard. pushing like he was desperate. All around the barn, Robert's horses were doing the same thing. They were all trying to get closer to the foal stall. They were all desperate to reach the small, dying animal. "What is happening?" Robert whispered. He did not understand. Horses did not act like this. Horses were not kind animals that did not belong to their group. Horses were not protective of strangers. But these horses were different right now. These horses were acting like they understood something. These horses were acting like they knew the foal was dying. These horses were acting like they wanted to help. Robert opened the gates. He did not know if it was a good idea, but he did it anyway. One by one, he led his horses out of their stalls. What happened next was something Robert will remember for the rest of his life. The horses did not run away. The horses did not fight. The horses did not attack the foal. Instead, they walked slowly toward the foal stall. They surrounded the small, dying animal. They stood around the foal in a circle. They stood close, very close. They stood like they were protecting something precious. The oldest mare, Duchess, stood closest to the foal. She lowered her head. She breathed warm air onto the foal's body. One by one, the other horses did the same thing. They stood around the foal and breathed warm air onto it. They stood so close that their bodies almost touched. They created a circle of warmth and protection around the dying foal. Robert was crying now. He did not know why. He was just an old farmer. He had seen many things in his life. He had seen animals die. He had seen animals born. He had seen storms and droughts and all the hard things that happen in farm life. But he had never seen anything like this. He had never seen animals care about each other like this. He had never seen protection like this. He had never seen love like this. The foal was still not moving, but something was changing. Robert could see it. The foal was not shaking as much. The violent trembling that had been so bad before was slowing down. The foal's breathing was becoming more regular. The foal's body was becoming warmer from all the horses standing around it, breathing warm air, creating a protective wall of heat and safety. Robert sat down in the straw and just watched. He watched through the rest of the night. He watched his horses stand guard over the dying foal. He watched them stay still. He watched them be patient. He watched them be kind in a way that Robert had not known animals could be kind. By 4 in the morning, the foal was no longer shaking. By 5 in the morning, the foal's eyes opened a little bit. By 6 in the morning, when the first gray light of dawn started coming to the barn windows, the foal was still alive. Robert could not believe it. The foal should be dead. Everything said the foal should be dead, but the foal was alive. And Robert's horses had done something that Robert could not explain. They had saved a life. They had done it without being asked. They had done it because they knew it was right. As the sun started to come up, Robert heard a sound he had not heard in hours. It was a car. It was coming down his driveway. Someone was coming to his ranch. Robert had not called anyone. Scout, his dog, started barking to announce a visitor. Robert went to the barn door and opened it. He saw a truck coming down his snowy driveway. Then another truck. Then more cars. People were arriving. Many people. Robert did not know what was happening. Then he realized. Someone must have told them. Word had gotten out about the foal. Someone in the town must have heard something and told someone else. Now people were coming to his ranch. The first person out of the truck was Susan. She worked in the county office. She was followed by her husband. Then came Tom and his wife Elena. Then came more people. People Robert knew. People from the town. People from the county. They were all coming to see the foal. Robert looked at his watch. It was only 6:30 in the morning. How did so many people know? How did they get here so fast? In a small town, word traveled fast. But this was very fast. Then Robert saw another vehicle. A truck with the word veterinary on the side. A woman got out. She was tall and wore a heavy coat. She looked professional. She looked like someone who knew what she was doing. "Are you Robert Hayes?" the woman called out. "I am," Robert answered. "I am Margaret. I am a veterinarian from town. Someone called me and told me you have a foal that is in bad shape. They said you brought it in from Richard Dalton's ranch. Is that right?" Robert nodded. "She is in the barn." But she is alive. She should not be alive. But she is. Margaret walked toward the barn. She was moving fast. She was moving like someone who had an emergency. Robert followed her. Behind them, all the other people followed too. This was becoming bigger than Robert wanted. This was becoming something that Robert could not control. In the barn, Margaret saw the foal surrounded by Robert's horses. She saw the circle of protection. She saw the warmth and care that the horses had created. She stopped walking. She stared. "My God," she said quietly. "I have never seen anything like this." She moved closer to the foal. She began to examine the small animal carefully. Her face was getting more and more serious as she worked. After a few minutes, she stood up and turned to Robert. "How old is this foal?" she asked. "I do not know," Robert said. "Maybe a few weeks." "Has it been eating?" Margaret asked. "I found it last night," Robert said. "I did not know its history." Margaret looked back at the foal. Then she looked at the horses. Then she looked at Robert. "This animal has been starved," Margaret said. "For weeks, maybe longer. This foal should be dead. The fact that it is alive is a miracle. And the fact that your horses did this." She pointed at the circle of horses around the foal. "This is not normal. This is not something I can explain." Robert felt something break open inside him. It was anger. It was sadness. It was the understanding that someone had done something evil to this small, innocent animal. And now, because of kindness from other animals, the foal had a chance. The community had arrived. The veterinarian had confirmed the truth. Everything was about to change by 9 o'clock in the morning. At least 30 people were at Robert's ranch. They had come to see the foal. They had come to help. They had brought blankets, medicine, and special food for horses. They had brought hope. Robert's barn had never felt so full of people and care. Then everything changed. A truck came down the driveway. It was moving fast. Too fast. The driver did not slow down. The truck was pulling a horse trailer. Robert recognized it immediately. It belonged to Richard Dalton. Everyone went quiet. The talking stopped. The movement stopped. Everyone just stood and watched as Richard parked his truck in front of the barn. Richard got out. He was a big man, angry-looking, red-faced. He was wearing a dirty hat. His clothes were stained. He looked like someone who had not slept in a long time. Richard did not say hello. Richard did not ask about the foal. Instead, he started yelling. "That is my horse," he shouted. "You stole my horse. You went on my land and you stole my property." Robert stood very still. He was not afraid. He was old and tired. He had nothing left to lose. But he was also angry. Angrier than he had been in many years. "I rescued that foal," Robert said calmly. "That foal was dying in the cold. That foal had been starved. I saved its life. I do not care." Richard yelled. "That is my foal. You have no right. You are a thief." Richard moved toward the barn door. The crowd of people did not move. They just stood there, looking at him, watching him, judging him. "You need to leave," said a woman's voice. It was Susan. She worked in the county office. She was standing with her husband. She was looking at Richard, like she was looking at something disgusting. "This is not your business," Richard said to Susan. "It is everyone's business," Susan said. "You have animals on your ranch that are dying. You have animals that are starving. This community cares about that." Richard laughed. It was not a nice laugh. It was mean and bitter. "These people do not know anything about horses," Richard said. "These are just stupid people who think they know everything." Then something happened that Richard did not expect. People started talking, all at the same time. All these people started telling their stories. Stories about Richard's ranch. Stories about animals they had seen. Stories about suffering. A man named Thomas stepped forward. He was a farmer like Robert. He was older with gray hair and kind eyes. "I saw a horse on your property 6 months ago," Thomas said to Richard. "A good horse. A healthy horse. Then it disappeared. I asked you what happened. You refused to tell me." Richard said nothing. Then a woman named Elena spoke. She worked at a restaurant in town. I drove past your ranch last month, Elena said. I saw a horse working in the sun. No water nearby. No shelter nearby. The horse was limping. It was clearly in pain. I wanted to call someone, but I did not know who to call. More voices came. More stories. One woman talked about seeing horses tied up for hours with no food. One man talked about seeing a horse with a deep cut that was bleeding and not treated. One teenage girl talked about seeing thin horses in bad conditions. Richard's face was getting redder and redder. He was getting angrier. You people are all liars, he shouted. You're all making things up. That is my ranch. Those are my animals. I do what I want with my own property. That was when Margaret, the veterinarian, stepped forward. She was holding a clipboard. She was holding papers. She looked very serious. She looked very professional. She looked like someone that people would believe. I have examined that foal, Margaret said. That foal shows signs of severe malnutrition. That foal has been starving for weeks. That foal has injuries that were never treated. That foal has signs of dehydration. That foal has every sign of systematic neglect. Systematic neglect is a fancy word, but it means only one thing. It means that someone did not care. Someone did not give the animal what it needed to live, on purpose, or maybe not on purpose, but it did not matter. The animal suffered because of it. That is a lie, Richard said. That foal just came with me from another ranch. Where? Margaret asked. Where did it come from? Richard did not answer. I will tell you what I think, Margaret said. She was not yelling. She was speaking quietly. But everyone could hear her. Everyone was listening. I think that foal was born on your ranch. I think that foal belongs to the mother horse on your property. I think you separated them. And I think you did not feed either of them enough. Silence. Long silence. Then Richard moved. He moved toward the barn door. He moved like he was going to go inside and take the foal by force. But the people did not move. They stood in his way. There were 30 of them. There was one of him. Richard stopped. He looked at all these people. He looked at their faces. He looked at their eyes. He saw that they were against him. He saw that they would not let him pass. I am calling my lawyer, Richard said. I am calling the police. I am taking my property. Do that, said Susan. She was holding up her phone. I am calling the animal welfare office right now. I am filing a complaint. I am documenting animal abuse. Me too, said Elena. Me too, said Thomas. One by one, people started taking out their phones. They started taking pictures of Richard. They started writing down his name and the date and time. They were documenting this moment. They were making sure there was a record. Richard looked at all of this. He saw what was happening. He saw that this community had decided. They had decided that his animals mattered. They had decided that he was wrong. They had decided that they would not let him take the foal. This is not over, Richard said. His voice was quieter now. His anger was turning into something else. Fear, maybe, or shame. Robert could not tell. You are right, Susan said. It is not over. It is just beginning. We are going to document everything. We are going to file complaints. We are going to make sure this happens again. Richard got back in his truck. He did not say anything else. He started the engine. He began to drive away. But then he stopped. He put the truck in reverse. He drove backward until he was facing forward again. He looked at the barn one more time. He looked at Robert. He looked at all the people. Then he drove away. For a long moment, no one moved. No one talked. They just stood there, watching the truck disappear down the driveway. Then Susan looked at Robert. What do we do now? She asked. Robert did not know. He did not know what came next. He did not know what would happen when Richard really did call his lawyer. He did not know if the community could really do anything to stop him. But he knew one thing. He knew that something important had happened in that moment. He knew that a line had been drawn. On one side of the line was a man who did not take care of his animals. On the other side of the line was a community that would not accept that anymore. And in the barn, the foal was still alive. The foal was warm. The foal was safe. The foal had been saved, not just by Robert, but by all these people, by this community. Everything was about to change, but Robert did not know it yet. 1 week later, Carol arrived at Robert's ranch. Carol was the animal welfare officer for the county. She was a tall woman with short gray hair. She was serious. She was professional. She carried a clipboard and a camera. She was there to do an official investigation. Carol had been doing this job for 15 years. She had seen many cases of animal neglect. She had seen animals starved. She had seen animals beaten. She had seen animals left in dangerous conditions. But something in this case felt different to her. Something felt bigger. Something felt like it could change things. "I need to see the foal," Carol said. Robert took her to the barn. The foal was in a stall with soft straw and heat lamps. The foal was eating now, eating real food, eating the way a healthy young horse should eat. The foal's ribs were still showing. The foal was still thin, but the foal was getting better. Day by day, the foal was getting stronger. Carol examined the foal carefully. She took pictures. She wrote notes on her clipboard. She checked the foal's body for injuries. She looked at the foal's teeth. She looked at everything. "This animal is severely malnourished," Carol said. She was speaking into a small recorder. She was documenting everything officially. "This animal shows signs of long-term neglect. This animal has heel cuts that were never treated by a veterinarian. This animal is possibly 3 to 4 weeks old. This animal weighs approximately 80 pounds. A healthy foal of this age should weigh 120 pounds. This is a clear case of animal abuse through deprivation." She looked at Robert. "I need to go to Richard Dalton's ranch now," Carol said. "I need to see the conditions there. I need to document everything." "Be careful," Robert said. "Richard can be angry." Carol nodded. She understood. 2 days later, Carol came back to Robert's ranch. But she was not alone. She had brought another officer with her. They looked upset. They looked like they had seen something bad. "I found 43 horses on Richard Dalton's property," Carol said. Her voice was shaking a little. 43. The ranch is designed to hold 20 horses maximum. 43 horses living in spaces made for 20. She opened her notebook. "The water systems are broken. The horses are drinking from stagnant pools filled with dirt and algae. Many horses are showing signs of illness because of the contaminated water. The hay supplies are moldy. The hay is not safe to eat. But the horses are eating it because they are so hungry they have no choice. I found 5 horses with serious wounds that are infected. Those wounds are weeks old. They have never been treated. One horse has a cut so deep I could see the bone." Robert felt his chest get tight. He could not believe what he was hearing. This was not just negligence. This was disaster. "There is more," Carol said. "I found the foal's mother. She is in very bad condition. She is showing signs of recent lactation. She has definitely recently given birth. She is thin. She is sick. She is being kept separate from any shelter. She should have been kept with her foal. The separation is causing her distress." Carol looked at Robert with serious eyes. "I am starting a criminal investigation," she said. "This is not just negligence. This is systematic cruelty. This is animal abuse. I am going to recommend charges." But then something unexpected happened. 3 days later, Carol came to Robert's barn again. But this time, her face was different. She looked confused. She looked sad. She looked like she had learned something that changed how she understood everything. "I did some investigation into Richard Dalton," Carol said. She sat down in the straw next to Robert. "I looked into his financial situation. I spoke to some people in town. I found out some things." "What things?" Robert asked. "Richard Dalton used to have a successful horse breeding business," Carol said. 15 years ago, his ranch was good. His horses were healthy. His operation was profitable. But then something happened. His breeding program started producing horses with genetic problems. The horses had health issues. They could not be sold for good prices. He lost money. A lot of money. Robert listened. "He borrowed money to try to fix the problem," Carol continued. "He borrowed money to buy new horses. He borrowed money to improve the facilities. He borrowed money to try to recover his business, but it kept getting worse. Every year it got worse. He is now $2 million in debt. $2 million. Robert could not even imagine that much money. He has not paid his workers in 6 months, Carol said. He has not paid his property taxes in 2 years. He is about to lose the ranch anyway. The bank is going to take it. His life is falling apart. That does not excuse what he did to the animals, Robert said. No, Carol agreed. It does not, but it explains it. He did not starve the animals because he was evil. He starved them because he could not afford to feed them. He separated the foal from its mother because he could not afford to care for both of them. He let the animals get sick because he could not afford veterinary care. He was not trying to be cruel. He was failing as a person. His failure fell on the animals. Robert looked down at his hands. What happens now? Robert asked. The legal case will continue, Carol said. He will probably face charges. But I thought you should know this. I thought the community should know this, because this changes what needs to happen next. That evening, Robert called Susan. Susan called Elena. Elena called Thomas. One by one, the word spread through community. There was a meeting. It was held at the church in town. About 60 people came. Carol explained everything. The criminal investigation, the debt, the failing business, the collapse of life. The people listened. Some people looked angry. Some people looked sad. Some people looked like they were thinking hard about something. Then Susan stood up. We can punish Richard, Susan said. We can send him to jail. We can destroy him. That would feel good. That would feel like justice. But what about the animals? If Richard goes to jail, nobody is taking care of the horses. The animals still suffer. What are you saying? Thomas asked. I am saying maybe we try something different, Susan said. Maybe we help. Maybe we go to Richard's ranch. Maybe we help him fix it. Maybe we help him care for the animals. Maybe we help him get out of debt. Maybe we help him become a better person. And maybe, while we're doing that, we make sure he understands that this can never happen again. The room was quiet. People looked at each other. Some people looked like they agreed. Some people looked like they disagreed. That does not mean there is no punishment, Susan continued. There should be consequences. There should be changes. There should be supervision. But maybe it also means we give a person a chance to be better. Maybe it means we solve the real problem. The real problem is not that Richard is evil. The real problem is that he failed. The real problem is that animals suffered because of his failure. Maybe we stop the failure. Maybe we help him succeed. Robert listened to Susan speak. He thought about Richard. He thought about a man whose life was falling apart. He thought about animals suffering because of that falling apart. He thought about whether punishment was enough. He thought about whether compassion was possible. Nobody made a decision that night, but something had shifted. The story was no longer just about a cruel man and innocent animals. The story was about something much bigger. The story was about what happens when a community has to choose between punishment and redemption, between justice and mercy, between accountability and compassion. The story was about to become something nobody expected. 6 months had passed. It was now June. The snow was gone. The cold was gone. Everything was green and alive. Robert's ranch was different than it had been. It was still his ranch. But now it was also something else. It was a place where broken things came to heal. The foal was named Mercy. This name had been given by the community. Mercy was now much bigger. Mercy's ribs no longer showed. Mercy's eyes were bright. Mercy could run and play like a real foal should run and play. She spent her days in the pasture with Robert's other horses. She spent her nights in the barn with Duchess, the old mare who had stood guard over her the night she arrived half dead and frozen. But Mercy was not alone in the barn anymore. 3 weeks ago, Mercy's mother had come to Robert's ranch. The reunion had been something nobody would ever forget. When the mother horse saw her foal, she made a sound that came from deep inside her. It was a sound of recognition. It was a sound of relief. It was a sound of love. The mother and foal had run together across the pasture, and they had not been separated since. The mother was healing too. Her infected wounds were treated. Her illness was cured. She was gaining weight. She was becoming healthy. In a few months, she would be strong enough to be adopted by a family that could care for her properly. But the biggest change was not at Robert's ranch. The biggest change was at Richard Dalton's ranch. Richard was still there, but Richard was different. He was working with his hands again. He was fixing his fences. He was cleaning his barn. He was caring for the animals that remained on his property. He was doing better. Not perfect, but better. The community had followed through on what Susan had proposed. Instead of just punishing Richard, they had helped him. A group of people came to his ranch every week. They worked. They cleaned. They fixed broken things. They brought feed and medicine. They brought expertise and knowledge. They brought something else too. They brought the message that Richard could be better, that Richard could change. The financial help had come as well. A nonprofit organization that worked on animal welfare had given Richard a loan, not charity. A loan, something he had to pay back. But the interest was low. The payment was manageable. The loan gave Richard a chance. It gave him a path out of complete destruction. Richard had accepted help from a therapist. The therapist had helped Richard understand his failure, not to excuse it, but to understand it. To understand that when a person's life falls apart, sometimes other things fall apart too. Sometimes people stop being able to take care of things. Sometimes they stop being able to care. The therapist had helped Richard care again. The criminal charges had not gone away. The investigation was still happening. The government still had to decide what charges, if any, would be brought. But something had shifted. The story was no longer about evil man crushes innocent animals. The story was now about a broken man who was trying to become whole again. The story was now about a community that believed people could change. Carol, the animal welfare officer, had written a report. The report documented everything. The neglect, the conditions, the suffering. But the report also documented the intervention. The report documented the community's response. The report documented Richard's effort to change. The report became the basis for a new way of thinking about animal welfare. Not just punishment, but redemption. Not just punishment, but healing. On a Saturday in June, there was another meeting. This time it was not at the church. It was at Richard's ranch. About 40 people came. They came to see what had changed. They came to see the animals. They came to witness what was possible. Richard stood in front of them. He was not the same Richard they had seen 6 months ago. He was thinner. He had lost weight from the hard work. His face was different. His eyes were different. His eyes looked like someone who had seen the bottom of a hole and was trying to climb out. "I want to say something," Richard said. His voice was shaking. "I want to tell all of you that I was wrong. I was wrong to neglect my animals. I was wrong to let things get so bad. I was wrong to think that my problems meant that the animals did not matter. The animals mattered. The animals were innocent, and I hurt them." He stopped talking for a moment. He was trying not to cry. "I was also wrong to think that my life was over when things got bad," Richard continued. "I was wrong to think that failure meant destruction. You people showed me something different. You showed me that failure could become a beginning. You showed me that I could change. You showed me that a community could care about a person even after that person has done something wrong." He looked out at the animals in his pasture, the horses that were still there, the animals that were slowly healing. "I do not know what the government will do," Richard said. "I do not know if I will face charges. I do not know what my future will be. But I know this. I know that every day I wake up now, I know my animals are going to eat. I know they're going to have water. I know they're going to have shelter. I know that I am going to care for them. And I know that I am going to spend the rest of my life making this right." The crowd was silent. Some people were crying. Some people were angry still. Some people believed him. Some people did not. But all of them understood that something real had happened. Something real had changed. After the meeting, people walked around Richard's ranch. They saw the improvements. They saw the clean stalls. They saw the fixed water systems. They saw animals that were getting better. They saw evidence that change was possible. Robert found himself standing next to Susan. They were watching the horses in the pasture. Do you think he means it? Susan asked. I think he means it right now, Robert said. I think he is trying. That is all any of us can do. We try. Susan nodded. You started this, Susan said. She was looking at Robert. You brought that foal to your barn. You started everything. No, Robert said. You started it. You and everyone else. I just opened a barn door. You opened something bigger. Back at Robert's ranch that evening, Robert went to the pasture. Mercy was there. Mercy was running with her mother. The two horses ran together across the green grass. They ran like they were happy. They ran like they were free. Robert's other horses watched from the shade of a tree. Duchess, the old mare who had protected Mercy the night she arrived, watched too. She watched the foal and the mother run. She watched like she understood that she had done something important. She watched like she knew she had saved a life. As the sun went down, the sky turned orange and pink and purple. The wind was warm. The world felt good. Everything felt like it was healing. Everything felt like it was becoming whole again. Robert thought about the night that started everything. The cold, the snow, the foal dying in the dark. He thought about how one decision to open a barn door had changed so many lives. Not just the foal's life, but Richard's life, but the community's life, but his own life. He thought about how sometimes the smallest action creates the biggest change. How sometimes one person doing the right thing gives other people permission to do the right thing too. How sometimes compassion is the most powerful force in the world. More powerful than anger. More powerful than punishment. More powerful than the desire for revenge. As darkness fell and the stars came out, Robert walked back to his house. Mercy and her mother followed him to the fence. They watched him go. They seemed to say thank you with their eyes. That night, Robert slept better than he had slept in months. He slept knowing that a foal was alive that should have died. He slept knowing that a community had chosen compassion. He slept knowing that a broken man was trying to be whole. He slept knowing that sometimes, on cold nights when everything seems impossible, opening a door can change the world. And in the pasture, Mercy and her mother slept together in the warm June night. Two horses that had been separated by cruelty. Two horses that had been brought together by kindness. Two horses that embodied a story about suffering and survival and second chances. The story that began on a frozen December night ended on a warm June evening. But it was not really an ending. It was a beginning. It was a beginning of a different way of thinking about justice. It was a beginning of a community that understood that punishment and compassion were not opposites. They were partners. Together, they could change people. Together, they could heal the world. And the small foal named Mercy, who should have died in the cold, lived to remind everyone who knew her story that miracles were possible, that transformation was possible, that redemption was possible, that if you were willing to open a door and hold it open, you could save more than just one life. You could save the world.